Friends, we're up to video number 5 in our Jesus the I Am series, and today we're looking at Jesus' statement, I am the resurrection and the life. In the Gospel of John, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. This was a double claim. Jesus was saying, I'm the resurrection and I'm the life. And he makes a distinction between those two. He was saying, I am the one that raises people to life. He was really speaking specifically here about the end of the life of an individual. When someone comes to die, he was saying, I am the one that is the resurrection for them. I raise them again. And what we know from elsewhere, the other sayings of Jesus, that Jesus either raises someone to life, or by their own choice, Jesus raises that person to another kind of death. And Jesus is actually saying here, hey, I'm the one that does the raising and I can offer you life. You notice that Jesus is saying without him, there isn't a resurrection and there isn't life. He's saying, I am the resurrection and I am the life. So without him, we don't have a resurrection and we don't have life. He's the necessity in the equation. And you know, again, to come back to this, what he's saying is that when we die, actually there is a resurrection of sorts. You see, my physical body, my mind, my soul, this is not the real me in a sense. This is not the only me. But there is a spirit within me. That's really the real me, the spirit within me. And Jesus is saying for us that when we die, there is actually a resurrecting of that spirit, and that spirit will either go unto life because of Jesus and through Jesus, or will go unto death, again by the choice of that own individual on whether they accepted or rejected Jesus. And so Jesus is saying, hey, I offer you a resurrection and I offer you a resurrection to life. You know, it's interesting because this means that for the person that surrenders their life to Jesus or believes in Jesus can be confident in death, can be peaceful about death, can be secure about the future idea of a death. You know, there might be a physical death, but that's not the end spiritually. That's not the end of the story, you might say. And the one that follows Jesus can be certain that they do not need to fear death, that there will be a resurrection, and there will be a resurrection to an even greater reality and an even greater existence, which Jesus here terms life. You know, I had a friend recently that went actually to be with the Lord. They died of cancer. And my friend's name is Annalisa. And my wife and I actually really stood firm with our friend Annalisa in prayer in the final months of her life. She faced a fairly long battle with cancer. And my wife and I would go and visit her in her home and spend time with her and pray with her. And then it got towards the end where she was spending more and more time in hospital in intensive care, and we would go and visit Annalisa in hospital and spend time with her in the intensive care part of the hospital. And I can remember clearly moments of just talking, sometimes laughing together, sometimes crying together, sometimes just having a song to the Lord together in the hospital. And these were really, really sensitive moments. They were precious moments, and we were really believing until the end that she was going to beat the cancer, that by God's grace and power that she could overcome the cancer. And sadly, after months of this battle, she didn't beat that cancer. And the thing with Annalisa that struck me is this, is I don't feel like in those final days, weeks, that I didn't see once her afraid of death. I never saw in her this sign of, I'm afraid of death. She was concerned for the well-being of her family after her death, that was for sure. But not once in her words or her actions did I ever see a fear of death. And she knew this could well be the end for her. But she was never afraid. And I absolutely admired her for that. And I want to tell you something, that can be true for all of us. We do not need to fear death. I want to suggest to you that there are millions and billions around the earth and they are afraid of death. But for the one that has offered their life to Jesus, that has surrendered their life to Jesus, they need not be afraid of death. Here's the truth. Death is not the final word for a follower of Jesus. Death is not the final word for someone that's following Jesus Christ. They know that Jesus will resurrect them after the physical death and take them to eternal life. Though their body may die, their spirit will go on. You know, whoever believes in Jesus will actually have eternal life imparted to them. Forever and ever and ever. You see, this existence, we get 80 or 90 years, but the thing is eternity will go on for billions of years. And Jesus says, I'll give you eternal life. Not just continual existence, but a rich life, an abundant life for eternity. And Jesus, crazy enough, says, I'll even give it to you right now. I'll even give you a richness in your life, an abundance in your life right now. You know, this statement of Jesus also shows that Jesus has authority over that last great enemy called death. The last great enemy of every man and woman, as it were, that last great giant, you might say, is death. Jesus says in this statement, I have authority over that last great enemy. I can raise you and I can take you on to eternal life. Jesus says, I'm not afraid of death. I've overcome death, actually, when he rose from the grave. And so Jesus says, I have authority over that great enemy that we all know and have at times probably feared, death. Do you know that Jesus can give you security and peace in your future? He can give you the promise of eternal life, and you can have this great hope in death through Jesus. God bless you.